And welcome everybody to the PCS Like a Pro show. I'm your host, Megan Harless, and today we have a wonderful topic. We're going to be talking with my friend Jessica about Geo Baching and the choice to Geo Batch and what goes into making that kind of decision. Because I know many of us are like, we will never Geo Batch. He'll do unaccompanied overseas and then he'll come home. But sometimes our plans don't go as we plan and these things happen. So we're going to talk about that and their experience and what you should know if you find yourselves in that same boat. But first, I want to give a little DOD update sort of deal. We're closing out the year of 2021. We're going to be entering 2022 soon. But the big thing as we ended this year is to fill out that customer satisfaction survey. So if you have moved any time within the past 12 months and your move is complete, take a moment, get on DPS, fill out that customer service satisfaction survey, and let the DoD and your transportation service provider know how your experience was. Now, the big thing about these surveys is that they do count towards how shipments are awarded to these companies in the future. So right now they're going through the process of determining what their rates are going to be for the next year, filing those with Transcom, who's either denying them or accepting them. But part of how they fall in line with how they get awarded these shipments is based off of the survey and the results of that. So make sure you get on there, get on DPS, click the little button, fill out your survey. If you're having issues accessing DPS, you can still call the DPS hotline number and you can do the survey over the phone. But it's very important you do that survey, so please just take a few minutes of your day, go log in and get that filled out to let them know how your experience was and to help other families that come after you be able to get the good service that they should deserve as well. So we're going to jump right into what we have today. Like I said, I have my good friend Jessica here. We're going to talk about their family's experience. So Jessica, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm a veteran of the Air Force. I'm a military spouse of over 16 years. We have two children, both boys. We have a 17-year-old and we have a soon-to-be 15-year-old. And we have two dogs. And we're in Silver, Delaware.
And you totally don't look like you're old enough to have a 17-year-old.
Thank you. I really enjoy hearing that.
Very, very well. No, I always, whenever I see you at places, I always think of your kids being little until I see you on Facebook and it's like, here's my grown man child. And I'm just like, oh, why? Yeah. So how many times have you and your family PCS'd?
Oh, we've PCS 4 times. However, we've done Geo Baching quite a bit. So, that's kind of a cool dynamic for us.
Yeah. So your spouse's most recent PCS, as a family, you decided to have him Geo Batch this time as well. What influenced that decision and what life or family points were taken into consideration when making that decision?
So when making that decision, we kind of had to think of what was best for our family. We do have two almost grown children. Mm-hmm. So taking their thoughts, their concerns, and their needs into consideration was a huge aspect in that. But also, kind of going into that, it's where are you going to have help, if you're going to have support. There was so much to consider, and a lot of people don't know what to consider whenever they are thinking about geobaching. So for us, it was really an aspect of what was best for our children, schools, EFMP, all of these things, because we do have a child who's on the EFMP program. So that was really our top concerns.
Yeah, and children is always a big one. And now that, we're a military family that's been in this for over a decade and closing in on our 20-year period, as a young spouse, I always think we would never Geo Batch. We'll always, we'll follow my husband wherever he goes, keep our family together. And now my oldest will be starting his freshman year of high school next year. And now I've started to get into that mindset of, I want him to be able to graduate high school somewhere. I don't want to have to uproot him his junior, senior year to go somewhere. And I know we can put in for high school stabilization, but I also know that doesn't always get approved. So we've started to have some of those conversations of, we PCS next summer. how long will we be at that location? When should we expect a PCS from there? And then, like, what do we do? Do we geo batch? Does it depend on where he's going to? Is it someplace where the school systems are better and we say, okay, yes, let's go? Do we stay for the stability? It's something that again, when I think of my younger self, it was like, no, we're not going to do that. Like, you're a horrible family if you do that. And now I'm just like, if we have to give it for our kids, like, it's a couple of years, like, you can do it. And especially depending on where that geobatch location is, sometimes it's not very far. You can easily, make it work. And I know several people who have. So what has the geobatch experience been like for your family that's been going through it?
Well, as you know, with military life, Murphy Law is always around.
Yes.
So that's always just kind of a blast. He kind of, Murphy never leaves.
Mhm.
Um, it's been okay. My husband either tries to come home once a month or we try to visit him once a month. So there's always that financial aspect. For my job, it is a little bit of kind of an not so much an issue, but it is sort of a, hey, just a reminder, I'm kind of being this one-sided parent right now,
Mhm.
so I got to kind of make sure that my schedule really works with theirs, and then making sure that our kids feel supported by both their parents, and making sure that we have a school system that understands the military needs
Mhm.
and know how to combat the stressors that come with that, and helping our children kind of keep preparing for their adult life, and making sure that our support family here is, you know, as on board for what may come as what may come. So
Yeah, and that support system, having that circle and those people that you can lean on and rely on, is just it's just a huge part of normal military life to begin with, but especially when there's a deployment or a geo batching or solo parenting, knowing you've got somebody that you can call at 3 a.m. should there be an emergency of some sort, goes a long way, especially with every year when you go to PCS and, sometimes you get that wish list and you get to rank and preference what you want. And I know for a lot of families, it's, where do we either know people at? Do I have a friend located at that, I can reconnect with? Or where do we have family nearby that, we can have that support should you have to deploy or go TDY a lot, or, get sent somewhere else where we have to do it unaccompanied or a geo batch of some sort. So a support system is definitely just a huge thing for everybody. So now that you've been into this geobatch experience in life for a little bit, what are some things that other people that may be considering it, maybe starting to have that discussion as orders start coming out? What are some things that, like, I don't know, advice you want to pass on, or things they should consider that you wish you knew about before deciding, let's do this?
uh definitely the financial aspect,
Hmm.
because nothing puts a stressor on a marriage and a family quite like having your ducks in a row. It can be very costly. You're basically paying for two households. You've got his location, and if he's not on base, then he's most likely going to be on in an apartment. You've got to furnish that. You've got to make sure that those things are good to go. You've got utilities, you've got internet, all of those sort of things. And then, of course, where you're at home, you've got what you've got here at the house. You've got your own bills you have to pay. So there's always that financial conversation that you have to have.
Hmm.
Are we financially stable enough to be able to prepare for this? Plus, we want to make sure we're not going into our savings. Obviously, something breaks, something breaks. You're certainly not hoping for that $1,000 mystery car repair bill. Um,
We
so
get
making sure that you're not dipping into savings, or if you
that.
are, it's your emergency fund and not so much digging yourself into a further stressor. Um,
Yeah.
and then another thing that I would say that kind of was one of those knee jerk, oh my gosh, I didn't think about that kind of thing, was um, making sure that the family is really stable, and making sure that your marriage is also being taken care of, because you
Mhm.
still want to have that intimacy. You still want to have the the passion of newlyweds,
Mhm.
but also having to do this, of course, long distance, and making sure that you are supporting your member as much as they're supporting you,
Mhm.
and keeping that marriage, happy and healthy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The financial piece of it is definitely a great point to make, because I think that's something a lot of people don't think about until they're in the midst of it, of what the financial aspect of it is, and that you are paying for two homes, and then knowing where your BAH rate is going to be, because usually it's where the service member is located at. So if you're living in DC, where it's a high cost of living area and housing is very expensive, and then he gets PCS to a much lower cost of living area, your BAH is going to change, and that income, that paycheck every month is going to change as well. So it's definitely something to really consider and to look at and to keep in mind, and to really sit down and budget plan to see if you can even afford it to make it possible. And then definitely about being able to still be connected through your marriage, and everything. In a way, it's kind of like a stateside deployment, but you get to talk more and see each other more, but still not the same as having them right there at the end of the day to lean on and to vent to and to have. So definitely some good points to consider when it comes to making that decision, or even just having that conversation about geo batching. Um, so your family, as a family, you all have PCS 4 times. What's been the duty station that you liked the least? Do you have one?
Oh, and as cliched as it sounds, you kind of just got to make it work wherever you're at. I mean, there's going to be goods, there's going to be bads, there's going to be things you hate about each place, and there's going to be things you love about each place. Now, would I go back to the missile field again? Probably not. I might have threatened to just kind of pack up and walk my happy butt to another state if we didn't get out of there soon.
I
But
feel that right now.
oh yes, but there are a lot of things that I loved about that place. I mean, there were gorgeous views, and it was a very close knit community. So, I mean, there's places I loved and places I hated, but at the end of the day, the grass isn't always greener on each side. So it just really, it is what you make of it, and you build your own community there.
Yeah, no, definitely. And they always say your most favorite duty station is always the one you just left. And I can see that for some things, but no, we're in a very similar situation where I am eager to go someplace new. And if they talk about extending us here, we had some discussions with Branch about what time during 2022 we would move, and I was assuming summer season. And then Branch started throwing out like the fall and winter season. I was just like, oh no, 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 no! Like we need a little bit sooner. And now we're back to the summer cycle. There's some places where while you're in it, you can't wait to get out, and then once you're out, you look back and you think, it wasn't so bad. It wasn't the experience you expected to have there, but you've met some good friends. Your kids had a good time. You had family stability at some locations, so it may not be what you thought it was going to be. It may not be the place you wanted to go, but overall, it wasn't as horrible as it could have been.
Right.
So for all this, do you have a favorite duty station, a place that you would like want to go back, or you never want to leave, or is it your current
Here,
location now?
Dover Air Force Base. Um, of all the duty stations, and I, was a military child myself, so I've been to quite a few places, and not counting overseas locations, stateside Dover is probably my favorite. It's a super important mission that we have here. We have, the mortuary affairs. Um, so it's humbling experience to be here, but there's so much to do outside of here. We are literally, just across a bridge from DC. We are near New York City, and there's a lot to do here. And I've met some really, really wonderful people who've made my military life just, the top. I can't say enough about Dover, even though some people don't like it. That's all right. I loved it. I love it.
Now, Delaware is a great area. I've got family that lives there in Delaware, near Lewis and Rehoboth, and everything. I remember as a child always going up there and seeing them, and then taking the ferry across to Cape May, New Jersey, getting to see that. So it really is a great location. I think Delaware is one of those underrated kind of places. It's always just like, oh, Delaware, like nothing exciting happens in Delaware, but you're very centrally located to a lot of different locations to be able to do things as a family. And then, you know, in the summer, you've got the beach to enjoy as well. So it's definitely a good location, good area.
It is.
So when you all move, when you do PCS, do you use military movers or do you move yourself?
We generally fall somewhere between the partial Diddy move and the Diddy move. So normally we would do a partial Diddy move just because we want to keep a lot of our things and, you know, have some of those close comforts whenever we move. And then, you know, the military can move the bulk of it. Whenever my husband did PCS in June, we did a full Diddy move for him. So we just packed everything up in the back of a U-Haul and we drove it all the way across, you know, the country to his next gaining duty station. So I've done them all sorts of ways, but generally we're a partial Diddy move kind of family.
Yeah, and let me tell you, driving that U-Haul across country is not for the faint of heart. It definitely, we had one move where we moved from West Virginia to Kansas. And it was my husband driving the 26-foot Penske truck the whole way. And that kind of broke him on us ever doing a full Diddy move ourselves. Like we do the partial with what we pack into our cars and stuff, but he's like, I'm never packing and loading our stuff again. I am never driving a truck across country again. And now I'm just like, but we can order a container and like they transport it and I can do the packing and our kids can do the packing of their rooms and like it won't be so bad. And he's just like, no, like we will never do that again. So yeah, if you're considering a Diddy, like there's other ways to do it. Don't drive the truck. It's not fun. We can both tell you it's a no.
And make sure that your vehicle, if you're hauling a U-Haul trailer, make sure your vehicle is equipped for that sort of thing because nothing sucks worse than breaking down in Zanesville, Ohio.
Not that she knows from experience or anything. I mean, it could have been Cincinnati, Zanesville, Cleveland, just breaking down in Ohio in general is not.
Yeah, I mean, you know, kind of halfway between and then having to kind of figure out what to do from there. It's just, it's pleasure.
Yes, yes. And Murphy always finds his way into even the best laid plan.
Oh, yes.
So what have been, we're going to break this last question up that I have into two. So, because you've had, I know, some really great experience with things that you've done and where you've been, friends and community that you've made. So let's take it PCSing first. What would be some advice or lessons learned that you would want to pass on to a younger spouse or a first-time PCSing spouse that you learned in your military spouse journey?
Try to be as organized as possible. I think organization is key, even the most disorganized. I mean, I'm probably one of the most disorganized people ever, but you really have to make sure that you have things organized. Listen to those spouses that have done it a time or two or 20, and have a binder ready. Find out, hey, what did you find most useful? Making sure that you had all of your things ready to go, and then try not to stress so much about making sure everything is, you know, done last minute. Try to like time things out, you know, 3 months out from your move, you know, try this. 6 weeks out from their move, start trying to do this and start trying to kind of get everything taken care of. Now, of course, there's also those moves where they're like, guess what? You're moving in 6 weeks. That can be a stressor, but try to make sure that you are leaning on those support teams and making sure that you're also relying on, you know, your command team, because your first shirt, that's going to be a good resource to have, and saying, hey, what should we start kind of taking care of and looking into? So definitely try to be as organized as possible.
Yeah, and we've got, I'll drop the links below into the comments for everybody, but we've got a great PCS binder for you. Some other free printable resources that you can just get on, find what you need to print those off. That includes some checklists of those things to remember to do, like, you know, stop your monthly subscriptions, because there's nothing worse than being at your new location and then you're expecting your monthly box and it shows up at your old house. Even your Amazon subscribe and save, like you need to remember to stock those. But getting all those other things like your medical records, school records, the vet records for your pets, all of those things. So we've got a good checklist for those. We'll get those dropped into the comments for y'all to utilize how you need. And then my last question I've got for you, similar question, but just military life in general. What have been, a piece of advice or some lessons learned that you would just want to pass on to a young, new military spouse in general?
Rely on your spouse. Mm-hmm. As cheesy as it is, they're in this journey with you. They are like locked in with you. They are taking the same thing. They might have a whole different set of plans. They might have a whole different set of stressors that they're working on. But so long as you are, together, so long as you are making this journey and surviving it as a team, that's really what keeps, this military life the best. Relying on having, your best friend go through this journey with you is really what makes it special. And you get to do so many wonderful things. And why not share all of this wonderful, the good and the bad, with, your soulmate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like that. I think a lot of times we get into that mindset of, this is their job and we follow them around. And sometimes it feels like along the way we lose ourselves and who we are. And then, we're struggling to figure out what life is. And so I think what you said, just, being able to do life with your spouse and being a team together and handling things together is definitely some really good advice, especially for our younger spouses to hear, even our older spouses, because there's some times where, I think about the time frame when, our generation coming up where we had the back-to-back deployments. We were in Afghanistan, we were in Iraq, other random locations as well. And how for a while it was always like, we have to do everything ourselves. We can't ask for help. I can't tell my husband what's going on and worry him because of where he's at and what he's doing. So we get into that block of, like, I can handle it all. Like, we're good. But it is very important to be able to work together as a team with your spouse and be able to work through it and be there for each other and to lean on each other. So thank you for that. I definitely agree with that, and definitely a good reminder that we all need, especially coming out of 2020 and 2021. And as we look forward to 2022 coming next week, definitely a good reminder for all of us. So Jessica, thank you for your time and thank you for being here today. I greatly appreciate it because I know you've got a lot going on, running the house and your children and your husband and all of that good stuff. So we've got New Year's coming next week. So happy New Year, everybody. And join us back here beginning of January. We're going to kick off the year. It's going to be great. We've got a lot coming up, especially as we look forward to the 2022 peak season. Changes coming to the program you need to know about, helping you organize, helping you pre-pack, helping you get your finances and all that good stuff together so you can go into your next PCS owning it and PCSing like a pro. Until then, we'll see you all next year, 2022. So have a great day and we'll see you all then. Bye.